Good evening, everyone. It's the 3rd of May, Sunday. Let's do some coding. Today, we're going to be looking at more the 3D side of things, something I am not comfortable with at all. So let's get onto the live screen. Here we go. So we got a comment yesterday from 1-Bit Godot. 1-Bit Godot says it'll take you less than 10 minutes to implement a 3D object that the player can interact with. Let's do that bit. And go. 10 minutes. Well, it took us an hour and a half to do that, right? So it looks like we reinvented the wheel a bit. Oh, can't hear me. Hello? It's weird. Shows it as testing. Definitely can't hear me.
I fixed it.
Oh, never mind.
Muted the tab for some reason.
No worries. Good evening. How you doing, Davex? So yesterday, although I learnt a lot, it looks like there was a really simple way of doing this, thanks to 1-Bit Godot. He says, create a new scene, choose either area, static body, or rigid body, or kinematic body as your root node. Add a mesh instance as a child of that root node, and add a collision shape under the root. And your mouse can interact with it. Happy days. He even gives us a link to a project, which I took a look at. And so I am just going to demonstrate that first of all, because it's pretty handy to know. And so I created, oh man, I really took a long route with it. Spatial. So we created a collision detection function. We had a check hover function, and so on. We did all this good stuff. Fantastic. And actually what I was saying at the point was, wouldn't it be nice if the actual object told us, hey, I got interacted with, rather than the other way around? And yeah, you can do it. So all you have to do is, so we'll create an area. So we create an object, which is just an area. Nothing in it. Then we add a mesh instance to it. So that could be any 3D object, basically. We will make this a prism. Whoa, that's big. There we go. Actually, let's not make it a prism. Let's make it a... Decisions. Make it a capsule. Make it a pill. So, you can see area is saying node has no shape, so it can't collide or interact with other objects. Actually, pill is not a great example then in that case. Or maybe it is, because what we need to do is now add the collision. These are all 3D nodes that I'm not familiar with. And you can pick the shape of your collision. So we'll go for a capsule shape. And you can see that's perfectly wrapped around this. If I just expand it a bit, there we go. We've got a capsule shape around shape, right? So now, all we need is a little script added to our node here. We shall call it, what should we call it? We might as well make this something we can use now. So let's call this an, I hate the fact that we call things objects. We should have called them items, because it's such a, every time I write, I don't want to write the word object. In fact, you know what? I'm going to create item.gd. There we go. There's our script, and we're going to save the scene as item. So item, scenes folder. Cool. This is going to be our 3D version of of our object. So we can actually go into our object script here, and there's quite a lot of stuff, isn't there? Verb changing and all sorts of stuff. And if we start thinking about this in terms of 3D, it starts getting quite complicated. Not sure what it means yet. Either way, let's just close all these. Don't need them. Where is it? Item. Okay, so we've got our 3D capsule. So all we need is these a couple of functions that I prepared earlier, thanks to 1-bit Godot. And that would be on mouse entered and on mesh exited. So in this case, if we move our mouse in it, it's going to move it up a little notch. And if we move the mouse away from it, it's going to move our mouse down a notch. Let's give it a try. I don't know if it'll work, but we can't see anything yet because there's no camera. So we've got to add an item into our scene. So let's go back to our spatial scene. And we're going to bring an item in. We shall put it right in front of the camera. Item. Boom. Ooh, scroll low down. Wow, it's a beast of an item. I'll have to move it back a bit. What do we do? Press F to center, right? Yep, there we go. So, blue. And then up a bit. And let's move it over there. All right, cool. All right, let's see if it works. So you can see we can still pop over these, and our capsule should pop up. Yeah, not yet.
You need to connect signals to the functions. They are not called automatically.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Hey, 1-bit Godot, thanks for joining us, man. That's awesome to see you here. Right, cool. Okay, let's do that. So, so we've got our item scene, and we've got our signals for our collision shape, right? Or is it area? Mouse entered and mouse exited. All right, so we double click on mouse entered. Now we're connecting it to the script we created. Aha. So, okay. So that's our mouse entered. And it's great having someone that actually knows what they're talking about on the stream. Should come onto the Discord. In fact, you should just take over the stream, to be honest. Right, cool. So let's try and hook up the second one. So area, mouse.
I'm still
exited.
learning too.
Cool. Are you mainly focused on 3D stuff or everything? Because I take it that project you sent over, is that something you've created, is it? Yeah. Let's try it now. And play. Oh, wrong one. There we go. All right, here we go. Hey! 1-bit Godot, you nailed it. Thank you very much. Like, honestly, that could have saved us a good hour and a half in the last episode. It's pretty handy to know, though, isn't it? So it does indicate, though, that we might need to rewrite a lot of the game, especially if we move to 3D. We also need to work out, like, if we're going to have a verb system for interacting.
Worked mostly on 2D, but new project will be 3D.
Cool. Yeah, it's like the 2D kind of sets the foundation for you, doesn't it? And then the 3D is actually a lot easier to come into when you've done a load of 2D, I find. I was really intimidated yesterday, the day before yesterday when I started on it. But I think it would have been a lot worse had I not done everything I did before. Don't suppose you know if there's a way of overlaying or creating a text-based sprite dynamically, because this way of doing things is pretty bad. I'm going to Google it. Godot text sprite. Yep, I don't want to use a label either. Ah, canvas item drawstring. Interesting.
Yes, it's in the example project. Look at card script.
Ah, right, let's have a look. This is the one, so we're going to have a look at one bit Godot's.
Card script.
Look at one bit Godot's project here. So let's have a look. 3D grid movement. So press left to turn left, right to turn right, up to move forward, down to move backwards. I don't know if I'm using a different version to you. One bit. I'm on 3.2 stable, but I did have some errors when I tried to run this. It starts up no problem, but you can see the debug is on 68 errors already. And then as soon as we start trying to move, we just get the same error, I think. Yeah, something about a bone index. So that's the only thing that doesn't seem to work. Flashlight's working. Cool. Oh, so the player must be here then. Oh! Oh, wow, okay. This I didn't get this working before. Thanks for looking from my POV. Nice. So, forwards. Man, this takes me back. This would actually... It's exactly the sort of thing we were talking about the other day. Cool. Reminds me of like Dungeon Master and oh, I picked it up. Nice. Very cool. Right, so let's have a look at the cart script. So the cart.
Click on the cart.
Okay, I'll go. Yes, sorry. Here we go. You're like some sort of school mistress voice there. Click on the cart. Here it is. Supply. Aha! Right. Okay. Ah, that's exactly it. Nice. All right, let's see how that's done then. Very cool. So, cart scene. There's our cart and the script. Okay. Ah, right. Okay, so you actually create a viewport with a label on it, and then you position the... What do you do with that viewport? Just wondering, is it hidden at the moment, is it?
You need to use a sprite 3D.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
To
Gotcha.
display the viewport.
I'm with you. So there it is up there. Right. So you're adding a sprite 3D as a child to the mesh instance, positioning it relative to the mesh.
Look in the texture.
Viewport path. And that's pointing to that. Wow. That is cool. Right. Oops.
Use a viewport texture to display the viewport.
Where on earth did you find this out? Did you did you find a good tutorial on this somewhere? That's, I mean, I would never have found that in a million years. Brilliant. Viewport texture display the viewport. Okay, that makes sense. So, okay, let's do it. Let's try it out. So, quick project list. And
make sure you set billboard to enabled so it always face the camera.
Yep, I've seen that before. Brilliant. Okay, let's try it out. So we're going to use our test scene then. And so we'll pick, we'll use our item, seeing as we're starting to build up an item here, the capsule. So open the scene up. And so we're going to add a viewport. No, sorry, not a viewport. A 3D sprite. Sprite 3D. Okay, and we're going to position that. Now, how do we do that? Transform. We've got to position it relative to, yeah. So, it's there. Oh, wow, coffee just arrived. Thank you very much. Nice cup of decaf. Okay, so we got that positioned. Now we just add a viewport and add a label to our viewport. And we'll put some text in there. Call this item. Center it. Center it. Okay. So now we go back to our Sprite 3D. Set the texture to... Now, how did you do that? You animated Atlas camera. Is it camera texture? Oh, viewport texture. There it is. Right. Nice. Enabled on.
Create
Presumably.
a new viewport texture.
Got it. Okay. I think there's a bit of a delay, by the way, on the stream. Maybe a few seconds. Okay. So we now need to turn on billboard. That'll be on the Sprite 3D, right? Where is that?
You need to assign the viewport inside the texture.
Done that. Pretty sure I have. Yep. Let me just check. Billboard. 3D Sprite. Where's that billboard option? I'll just try it real quick. Just see if we've actually got anything working there. Spatial play. I take it we should see that in the scene though, if it was working. See anything yet? Source, region, billboard. There we are. Enabled. Transparent. Sure. So, okay, so we've got a viewport in there. Wow, when's it keep switching me? That's
Your
what I need to do.
viewport must have a size.
Ah, right, okay. That would help. So, viewport size. Okay, so let's go for 100 by 500. Too big? It's AVR. 8 RVR. It's true, the viewport we're using. Oh, no, I don't think we need it. Sort of augmented reality. Is that something? Something for VR? Own world. World. Rendering. Audio listeners as well. So if we go back to spatial, still not seeing it. I'm going to open yours a sec.
Funny, you should see the label by now.
Switch back to yours, have a quick peek at the settings. Cart scene. And okay, so viewport, you've got 90 by 12. Transparency and headline, but I'll just load up both projects at the same time here. Oh, okay, I can't do that. I've got Ubuntu on the other screen. Okay. Right. So scenes, item, and okay, viewport. So I'll just make it more like just a little bit smaller there. Transparency.
Check
On.
V-flip.
V-flip. V-flip on, okay. Always visible, disabled on 3D, on. Disable 3D, you've got off. I mean, on. Interesting that, wait, I'm seeing an HDR setting here, but not on your project. I wonder why that is. It's weird. Okay, let's check the other objects now. What's the GUI settings? Oh, right, okay. I suppose that's just a save on a bit of processing. Okay, so save. And now let's look at our Sprite 3D settings. So, oops. Region you've got disabled.
Did you pick the viewport in the texture?
We got it. There it is. So it was this region enabled, disabled. Oh no, wait. Oh, I don't know what that's for, but either way, we can see it now. When the region is disabled. Hey! Fantastic. That's awesome. I'm going to need to understand a little bit more about that and have a little dig in, but did you pick the viewport in the test? Yeah, we got it. Yeah. So thanks, man. That's awesome. That's brilliant. You're going to have to... is this something you're still working on at the moment? Your 3D grid movement demo? Still developing out the game? Turn that skybox off. Hey, hey, hey. There it is. Look at that. It actually tracks it as well, which is nice. That's fabulous. Thank you so much, 1-Bit Godot. You've made my life easy, and actually, I know someone who's in the Discord right now who'll be very happy to know that. And that's Callum, 3D and 2D artiste. Who's
just unmute myself there.
There he is. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm just looking at
that
different
is
ways
just
to
an
represent,
experimental
you know, the
project
game
for
in
me
3D.
to test stuff.
So
it won't be
yeah,
part
sorry,
of the game.
I've not really been paying
Awesome.
like 100% attention to what's been happening on the stream.
So 1-Bit Godot is been experimenting a little bit, learning how to use Godot, and one of the things he did is similar to sort of thing we need, and that is being able to put text over an item. I don't know if you can see the screen here.
In a 3D environment.
Yeah. It scales as well. I don't know if it's possible to remove the scaling from it somehow.
So you'd have a consistent font size.
But it's a viewport.
No matter how far away the...
So it's a 3D. It's a 3D viewport to a label, and then the label is now connected to the actual item itself. So thankfully, we can ditch this awful way of doing it, where we've got essentially we're floating labels, and you can see
fantastic.
It is fantastic. Yeah. So thank you so much, 1-Bit Godot. Do you want to big up anything? Any websites or channels? The channel's obviously 1-Bit Godot on YouTube. If you want to shout out for anything, just say the word. Well, now I need to rewrite quite a lot of stuff, because essentially what we need to do now is, if we move this into a 3D world...
Not yet until I upload stuff.
Cool. Well, absolutely. Just anytime you want endorsement and any coverage of anything, just send it our way and we'll put it on the stream. It'd be awesome. It's nice to see that shared elements across different projects that are needed, and share that knowledge. So I really appreciate it. I doubt I'm going to have anything that I can explain to you, but if there's ever a need, please ask. So, Callum, what have you been up to?
In my
in the world of 3D.
In my ultimate wisdom, I decided that it would be beneficial to use my time making a mood board for myself.
Oh, cool! You're gonna show us the mood board?
It's very basic just now, but all I'm basically trying to set out is the goal of visualizing what. So in the last stream that I was attending, we had a discussion on how we could visualize what the player sees, and how we can turn that into a user interface. What narrative we could take advantage of to change the visuals and stuff like that. And I think we settled on some sort of neural interface. So it's being represented by this digital thing, and it's like scanning an environment, and is how the user's perceiving the environment and stuff like that. So I'm basically playing around with that idea, and just seeing, how a person might visualize some sort of digital input, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if we look back at this, then this is what we've got to try and turn into 3D. So in our bedroom or living area, whatever you want to call it, it's not actually a bedroom, by the way. It's a living area. So it could be. It probably will have a bed, I suppose, but it's like a cabin, right, in a facility.
Yeah.
And eventually there won't be a lift here. There'll be a corridor. Think Star Trek. Think corridor, lots of cabins, crew section of the facility, lift inside the corridor, and other rooms. And we've just created this like a test area. So inside our living area, we have a study, in which we have nothing. Inside our balcony area, we have a view of Jupiter. How are you going to do that? It's a wireframe.
Well,
big globe. That'd be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
So we've got Graham here, who we can interact with. I can't wait to rewrite this system. I actually think maybe we should stick to that. Like, have some sort of no voice for conversations. It'll just be a lot less intensive on the old resources.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of a project, it's going to be a lot easier to, do away with that.
And the cutscenes can have the voices in.
It would be nice to have the conversational, aspect to it.
You mean voices?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would. I mean, we can certainly do it. I'm just thinking ease of use and speed. So
yeah, you're absolutely right.
So in your 3D world, we've got our TV screen, which we can now smash, kick, take it apart, roll it, throw it, and turn it on. So if I imagine that if you have your little TV object in 3D, then this will be kind of like we'll use the spectral. I don't know if we can do that, can we?
The spectral?
Yeah, sorry, the spectral analyzer. So see this on the screen
Oh,
here?
yeah.
So what we want to do is pipe the pipes,
The
one of the
TV
effects,
audio
into the TV. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which means that I'm not sure how we do that, because this is based on spatial is actually just turn this TV off. Spatial is based on an audio channel, right?
Mhm.
So we've actually got here we go. The master bus has a spectrum analyzer. So we'd actually have to have like in order to spectrally analyze the sound the same way we have, we'd need to add a spectrum analyzer to an individual bus and then assign that bus to the TV.
Yeah.
Not very good.
You know a lot more about it than I do, man. So I wish I could give you some pointers on that front.
I think we just have to actually just have some kind of like fake effect on the TV.
Yeah.
So if we know if it's giving off sound, it does some sort of flicker. I do like the idea of having a spatial, the spectral analyzer in there, spectrum analyzer. But I think maybe we have it just as kind of like as part of his interface on the screen. So just think more cyberpunk. He's detecting. He's got a little, who doesn't want an EQ in their head?
It doesn't need to be an accurate spec. Could it not just be like a pre-baked animation that's just playing as an overlay to say, oh, this is the TV playing?
Oh yeah, no, totally, yeah. But I'm just saying, I'd still like to have some sort of spectrum analyzer in the user interface somewhere. I don't know where, but it'd be cool. So okay, so that's another requirement. So if we look at our room, then we've got our living area has a family photo, a magazine, and a TV. So would you end up like modeling a table, like a couple of chairs, a plant, a photo? I mean, how are you going to do this without turning it into like a massive amount of work to do every single location?
Well, you can fake a lot of it, really. I mean, yeah, there's probably like 50 plants in the whole game, but it could just be the same 3 plants, if you know what I mean.
What about rather than trying to create like individual locations for every single thing, what about having a type of location? So square location, a round location, and so on. So we can reuse the resources over and over again. And then have positions where you can have doors. So that way, when we build up a location, we can say, okay, the living area is of type square with exit, and let's say there's like 4 potential exits you can have in a square room: door, back door, left. I mean, it's back wall, left wall, right wall, and front wall. So you can say, okay, this exit is on the right wall, this exit is on the front wall, and it populates positions according to properties of our objects.
So, are you saying each playthrough you'd have like something different, or is this?
No, I'm just saying we're creating assets as prefabs, so we can build up our locations without you having to constantly create brand new assets every time we create a new location.
Well, I mean, making the rooms is probably one of the easiest things, because it's a really simple shape, but it's the objects within it that's really gonna take up the bulk of the time.
What we want to do here is we've got to try and create a tool that anyone can pick up and start creating a game from.
Yeah, that would certainly lend itself to the whole tool thing.
So if we look at a square room, we can change the dimensions of that square room. It could be this wide or this long and so on. With objects, we can say that this is of type I don't know, whatever the type of object it is. So there's only
like
a finite
catalog, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. Same way we're doing with the exit audio at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, I think it's in the exit object. Where is it? Scripts, exits. Yeah. So exits at the moment. The audios we have are indoor footsteps on metal, footsteps outside, entering a lift, exiting a lift changing floor, and lift arrival. We obviously want to build this out. We want more and more audio so that we can reuse it when you're transitioning between scenes throughout the game. We want to have grass. We want to have, I don't know, high heels for when your player decides to change his shoes. I don't know what he's doing with high heels on, but we have got a high heels sound, and that is the footsteps indoors metal. Unfortunately, you just kind of every time we play that sound effect. Anyway, it's because it's for the cutscene, right? What's this one here? Oh yeah, have you heard this? And have you got audio? You won't have audio, will you?
No, I don't.
And there's our high heels. Unfortunately, it was a free sound effect, so it's got the sound of children playing in a playground in between each step.
Will I be able to hear it through Twitch? Oh yeah, I can. That's a shame. I can't hear it through the Discord, but I can hear it through Twitch.
It would only happen with Discord if I shared the app itself.
Yeah.
I wanted to set a new... Actually, never mind. Right, anyway, so prefabs. That would be a sensible way to go. It would mean that you could add more detail and make a more interesting scene for a square room. Right?
Yeah. I mean, realistically, you're not going to see a lot of it anyway. So, you'd only ever see, like, at most
the
3
direction
walls.
you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we're starting to get into the 3D world, you could have the player look around if you want.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't really like that aesthetic in the context of this project.
Okay. What happens if a character leaves?
If a character leaves the room?
Yeah. What happens? Like, have you heard the latest audio?
I haven't. No.
Man, honestly, I just sent it to you the other day. Let me just forward it so we can play it on stream. Hang on a sec. It's really good. Share. Great if I could just... Oh, wait, can I just Discord it from here? That'd be awesome. Share. To Discord. Perfect. Right. There we go. And then if I pick that up, can you share stuff between Discord channels or?
I think so.
I can just download it here. So here we go. There we go. Downloaded. Right. Listen to this. And imagine what you're going to see in your 3D. Can you hear this? You have to listen to the Twitch, obviously.
Yeah, I'm listening to Twitch, yeah.
Footsteps. Crossing. Stereo. From left to right. Door closes.
Hey, does that just come back all right? I need them before.
Now you've got background audio, characters just talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the characters will be just getting on with it. This isn't engaging with you. Characters are just talking between themselves. So these will be random events.
I've had a look at the pictures and I'm not really satisfied.
This is Dave and I can't remember what the other character's called. Character's coming back in. It sounds like he's closed the door again because we don't have a suitable open noise. And all this, of course, is narrative building as well, because the results don't make any sense. They're running some tests, and they're like, this is a bit weird. What's going on here? It doesn't matter if you don't really notice it, but... And then we've got random events, which will be what's just coming up now. So you'll be in this location, and suddenly this will happen. What's that?
Dave, what the hell kind of music is that? Can you turn it off, please?
Come on. You have to like this one.
Dave, we've been through this. It's awful.
She didn't like Dave's music. I like Dave's music.
This one?
I love this one.
Dave's got great taste in music.
That one's even worse.
Door opens again.
Yeah, let's have no music for now.
You have absolutely no taste.
Anyway, that's just halfway. Obviously, you've got your background music as well, but this is an example to show like the multiple layers that we're going to map on a given location. So that's the lab location, right? So how do we imagine our user interface reflecting those changes? Because I don't really want characters like... So I do expect the characters to move from one location to the next, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there will be... So they will also utilize these transition sound effects. So everyone's footsteps will pretty much be the same sound effect at the moment.
Yeah.
And then they will interact with each other within these different locations. So I just don't imagine the character will be like sort of floating along the screen, moving.
So what I suggested last time was that we see a still snapshot of that. So
yeah. So sort of the sort of shape of the character.
Yeah, so like someone's taken a photograph of that pinpoint in time.
Mm-hmm.
So if like say they're on their way out of the room, it'll catch them on the way out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they want a sort of updated version, say someone walks back into the room and they're like, oh, who's that? Then they can rescan.
Do you think we need to have a button to scan? Is that going to be a good, like...
Well, that entirely depends, in my view, that entirely depends on how involved the other characters are in the environment. So say there's,
mm-hmm.
say it's important to know someone else is in the room before you like do something or interact with an object. Say you're in someone else's quarters and you want to see what's in their drawer. You can't do that if they're in the room. But then they walk out and then you rescan and you're like, right, okay, they're definitely not here. I can go in that drawer now.
But I think that would just be interacting with the drawer rather than having to press a rescan button.
Well,
yeah,
but if
so
they're
you
in the
click
room...
on the drawer and then you go examine, it'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. So-and-so's here. When they bugger off, you just click on it again and examine.
Yeah.
The scan is just like another mouse click.
Yeah, that's very true.
Imagine we automate the scan.
So it could automatically trigger after an event, like something's changed in the environment, it's rescanned.
What does that add? What does that give us if we have a scan?
It mainly
gives
gives us...
What are you thinking?
So, I mean, how the scan generates is I'm yet to quite visualize that.
Mm-hmm.
But what it does, I think, from a pragmatic standpoint, is that it gives us some leeway on the animations that we're using and stuff like that, and it means that we don't have to be as involved with the characters moving and
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like a snapshot.
Yeah.
So you're trying to suspend belief then, essentially. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we can have some sort of like sort of scanny thing. There's a really good one in what's that game called? Valorant. I wonder if we could do something like that. Have you?
In Valorant. I've not played
Valorant?
Valorant yet. No, I've not been privy to the closed beta yet.
Let's call it Valorant Scan. It's actually very much like the sort of scan you'd see in like aliens. In fact, that would be better. Let's just use a scanner. Still not the sort of scanner I wanted. It's basically like a laser going.
Oh, so it's like, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that sort of effect. That's the one I'm talking about. So the salvage scanner.
Right. Okay. Oh, like the thing that's coming to mind is The Incredibles when the bad guy tries to blow up Mr. Incredible, but he hides behind his mate who's dead, and then the bad guy sends down a drone to like scan the area.
Right. Nice.
Different generations.
No, I mean, I get the idea. Well, yes, definitely different generations. Cool. Okay. Well, we could do something like that. Let me just put that in the notes then. So, in terms of 3D, then we're talking about some kind of scan. So, basically, we could just automate the scan though. So, if a character comes in, just kind of we scan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything changes on the screen, we scan. We don't need to have a button that says scan.
Or maybe it just happens.
Useful.
Yeah.
If we find it's useful and it's something we can make into part of the game, then great. We'll make a button for it.
Yeah. Maybe in the meantime, before we decide that it's useful, or if we ever do decide it's useful, it could just happen instead of waiting for an event or something to change. It just happens like every 3 seconds.
Okay.
Because I think realistically, if you had a blind person and they were stumbling about a room, you would want them to be up to date with their environment. So you wouldn't want to have to make that a manual process.
But one of the things, just because I know this is really taking us off on a massive angle, is that when I started working on this, I was really looking at the Scum engine, for example.
Yeah.
Right. And if we look at any of these, in fact, let's just look at Scum games. They all use exactly the same engine, and the only major change between them is like slight user interface changes. So, not that I'm trying to make a commercial product here, but what I would like to do is create an engine that can be used by other people. So I'm just a little bit concerned that we go too far with the user interface side, so much so that it can't be used for a different format.
Well, okay. The fact that we're working with wireframes is purely an artistic thing. I don't think it needs to be limited to that.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
We're building up a catalog of locations, rooms, and the objects that populate them.
Okay. Right. Let's do this then. So let's work out, because I think that's the key to this, isn't it? Because the other games have prefabs, right? If you look at that, Monkey Island has its prefabs of buttons and cutscenes and
But every location in Monkey Island was different. So they they were using
an artist and the full weight of LucasArts behind them to throw money at art galore.
So I don't think it holds a lot of weight.
It does.
The particular.
Because they can still, other people still created games using the Scum engine.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And they didn't need to create ridiculously sexy artwork.
Right.
There are some pretty bad looking games, but I like this direction. So, but all we just got to make sure that we just keep it. So for example, a scan is so far out of the realm of many other games. Let's say we make it a bow and arrow, ye old school RPG next. How do we tweak what we've done? Well, maybe our location prefabs are going to be castle walls and forests and stuff, right? It's going to be much more. We've just got to think like that. That these location types that we're going to create could be fabricated to be different. So in our case, they're going to be kind of wireframe and futuristic.
Yeah,
green glowing lines and that sort of thing.
If anyone wants to set it in like a fantasy setting, then they can have their own collection of prefabs.
Dude, it's got to be a fantasy setting next. I really want to do one. So let's do the sci-fi first then. Right, so let's look at different types of room we can have. We're going to have a square room, a round room, some custom rooms. Just give me some inspiration here.
Let's say L-shaped rooms, triangular rooms.
Okay.
I don't think we need to pigeonhole ourselves into like these particular shapes right now, but yeah.
Okay, well let's just look at some of the examples we've got in our game at the moment. So we've got a balcony. How would you draw that?
A balcony. I suppose it depends on the context of the balcony. Is it a is it
we'll have
on the side of a?
We'll have a custom one, right? So we'll call this. So it's a custom 3D scene. They're all going to be custom anyway, right? But what I'm saying is that you might want to create something special. So the special thing about this one is that there's the planet Jupiter, and you're looking out from like.
Of course, it'll only ever be used like once.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very unique. So what we need is prefabs that we can use throughout the game, so that Steph can go, cool, I'm going to have a room here, and a room here, and a room here, and a room here, and a room here, boom, 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 boom. She can start building that stuff out. And then she'll go, you know what? I need the most gigantic, epic room you've ever seen with these circles in it or something. And you'll be like, that's another custom one. So we've got the ability to have prefab location types.
Yeah.
What about items?
It could be anything. Microscopes, potted plants.
Okay, so do you think you're gonna get that detailed?
Well, it doesn't need to be that detailed. That's the thing. It can be the least like high poly. The most low poly object you've ever seen, but it'll still sort of hold the resemblance of.
It's gonna be floating in the air.
No, it'll be obviously like placed on a surface.
So you're gonna have to have surfaces as well.
Yeah. So like, so you can have tables, you can have worktops, you can have cupboards, just stuff like that. But
that's sounding pretty complicated. I mean, honestly, just modeling a kitchen is hard enough.
You think that, but
I do because I've modeled a few.
I mean, I've modeled a few as well, and you know, honestly, what's the structural difference between a worktop and a cupboard? They're both rectangles. How does it need to be?
Yeah, that's the two that I'm like, God, table's easy. Table, no problem. Throw the table down onto the floor. Now I've got to like align this up with a face, right? The same with a cupboard. I want to align this up to a face in the room. What if I've got a round room? I'm like, where do I put my cupboard? I don't know. And plus, if it's wireframe based, are you saying that the cupboard prefab is, this is what we need to work out, is how do we make stuff that's efficient?
Right. So when I say wireframe, I mean like you'll only see the faces that you would regularly see. You got to think of it from a realistic point of view. If you're like scanning an area, if you do a 3D scan of the area, you can break those objects down into wireframes, but you're only ever going to have scanned the area that the scanner sees. So that game with the frisbees? I think we looked at the main menu for it. Oh man! In
VR.
Mod. No, never mind. Are you talking about?
I'm talking about
Echo.
One Echo. Yeah. What's it called? Echo. Lone Echo.
Lone Echo. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Ricochet.
Right. So if we look at the main menu that's the kind of thing I was thinking is like, because it's kind of like a nice, it's got these pluses that indicate like this sort of.
So it's like
surface.
Sort of clean, futuristic.
Yeah, but it's very virtual reality, right? You aren't in the real world yet. You're in this virtual world.
Yeah.
and you've got a menu you can interact with.
Yeah.
If you look at your arm, it's completely wireframe. Yeah.
Let me just.
I'm just going to see if I can find a video of it. Lone Echo main menu. Does anyone start from the main menu? Complete cinematic walkthrough. Surely they start here. Oh, there we go. Just going to start with a.
Is he going to look at his arms?
Cool. Yeah, look, so you can see the wireframe there, right?
Right.
That's a bit boring. It's actually loading a level, is it? Yeah, that's not what I want. But this is pretty cool. Oh, look, see, this is what I mean.
Yeah, that's exactly that looks exactly like how I was envisaging it. I don't know why I'm so tongue-tied tonight.
So what
Not
I'm
too many
thinking is
bubble
we're
bugs.
combining something like this with a kind of wireframe-based world. So I don't care if we can see through it. I think if you let them see through it, it's just going to look like a really plain scene. And now you've got to worry about lighting and all sorts of stuff, right?
Not the way I was envisaging it. I don't know. I'm sort of doing research into how people with actual bionic eyes, like right now, can perceive shapes and stuff. I just think, right, okay, how might that look in the future?
Simulation failing.
I mean, for example, people with bionic eyes right now can see
Failing.
very hazy outlines of what look to be the threshold of images, so like the extreme blacks and the extreme whites, and then it looks like a hazy in between of those.
Yeah, I think bionic eyes in the future they'll be able to see like everything. I think they'll just like regrow your eye. Yeah, I reckon.
Maybe.
I reckon we're not that far off, right? It'll just be
It
like
depends.
organ transplants. They'll get your stem cells, throw a few of your eye drops in, regrow your eye, pluck it out, and then hopefully try and get your nerves to grow, and hopefully thanks to neural plasticity, yeah, I can't even say it. You're going to learn to see through the eyeball again, right?
Yeah.
So, recommended. 1 hour terrain challenge. That sounds fun. Look at this. See that?
Simulation.
Oh. Hang on. See that there?
Creepy doll guy.
Yeah. So that's a 3D environment.
Uh-huh.
But that is a 2D animated sprite in the 3D environment. Right?
Wait, what? Are you sure? I'm not so sure that is. In fact, I would bet money that it's not.
You think that's a 3D?
I think that's a 3D.
Oh, maybe it is. Yeah. It's just a shader on it.
Yeah. It's cell shaded.
Damn. Yeah, you're right.
Sorry, man.
Well, I don't know. It just seems so... It just seemed like it only had 2 frames to it. So I was like, it doesn't seem very animated. It seems
I think that was just breaking. I mean, the title of the video is took me 15 minutes to break all of space. So I think that's it just...
I think this is the intro to... I think this is just his intro. Is this Lone Echo? Does Lone Echo ever have a scene like that?
I've never played Lone Echo. I've only ever played Echo Arena.
Right. I mean, I have played a little bit of Lone Echo. I never got to a scary bit.
I didn't realize it was supposed to be scary. I thought it was just like
hello?
a tense game.
For myself.
All right, here, look. Here's the main menu.
Oculus Rift platform, but even by
Look
today's...
at his hands there.
Right, okay.
So it's got translucent surfaces. So the faces have translucency. So you can see that gives a better perception of depth. The objects. Yeah. That would be, I think, the ideal way.
Okay.
So then our environment has some kind of shape to it. But
that certainly looks like it would give it a lot more depth than the direction I was going to go.
And it's got that sort of virtual reality kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
What about combat?
Is there going to be combat?
I'd like there to be combat.
Echo.
Okay.
The carrots go.
That does make things complicated.
Does it?
Well, maybe, I don't know. Because if you're relying on a mechanic
Mhm.
which gives you a snapshot every 2 seconds, obviously things happen a lot faster than 2 seconds in a fight. So
I'm not relying on that mechanic. That's something I said that we might put in or not.
yeah, I know, but like you can't you can't just work on hypotheticals. You need to say like, okay, if we're working with this mechanic, then how's the rest of it going to work?
Yeah. No, I mean, I was actually thinking you just have a button that says attack.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Because we've got verbs for everything, right?
Mhm.
So you can go and turn the TV on. It doesn't mean that you need to then scan to find the button and then press the
Oh
button.
no.
Or
Yeah.
if something's moving around and you want to interact with it, doesn't mean you have to scan to find out where it is.
Yeah, I'm still working on the assumption that there still would be a button that says attack. There is still just a button that's plain as day, saying turn on the TV or something. But I'm just like, how's actual combat gonna work? Because like a button that says attack with nothing, behind it, that's just another interaction to me. That's not particularly combat.
It would be another character on the screen, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you've got another silhouette on the screen, but this time it's an enemy, so it's red instead of blue, for example. So again, going back to that previous screen that we just saw in the main menu, where you're getting sort of statistics relating to that user, relating to the robot, this stuff. I was thinking, I really want to go towards the sort of RPG elements of this. Because I think as a puzzle game, it'll just be a bit too static. I want there to be more depth to it than just interaction. So, having your vitals on the screen, and then your vitals changing according to whatever's going on in the game. So if you're attacking something, well, how are you attacking them? What are you using to attack them? Just think like, rolling the dice in an RPG game, that sort of stuff. Yeah. You're pressing a button, it's doing the calculations, and then, you've now got the option. You want to run away, click on the exit. Yeah. You don't have to press the run away button, or you literally just want to leave the room. But if that if that enemy's after you, then, you might exit the room, and then a second later, it's in the room.
So it's going to turn into like an Outlast situation or something. Because I'm thinking, like,
yeah, totally, it could be.
Unless if you try to instigate a fight and you're blind and you're, still like assuming that we're still working off of the 2 second, snapshot thing. Unless you take them out in one hit, that's you boned pretty much. Unless you can run into a room and then hide or something.
But you're not blind. You've got a neural interface. So you've got your own ways of instigating combat, presumably.
Okay.
So stop thinking about the blind thing and the scanning for a sec. Go back to the fantasy world.
Right.
Right. Now what are you doing? Think similar interface.
You're gonna help me out with this one here, man. Because I'm not sure what you want me to say.
Just think through the process. Yeah, I don't want you to say anything. Right. I just think through the process now. So we've got to apply this same mechanic to a different game altogether.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Could you give me an example?
Okay, so you've got a sword, and there's a troll in the room. So how do you attack it?
Well, you swing your sword.
Okay, but how do you swing your sword?
How in depth do you want me to go here? Well, you would pull it out of your hilt, your sheath, so
let's look at the game a sec, right?
Right.
There you go. So now what do you do? So here's our troll.
And if you click that, would it come in? Would that give you options to interact with that?
Well, exactly. So that's how you'd attack it, right? So same with the TV screen. If we want to attack the TV, we'd have to do it through interfacing with the TV.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same thing, whether you're playing an RPG game or a sci-fi. You want to interact with it. It's not a case of worrying about whether you have to pull a sword out, swing it. You just click on it. If you've got the sword, it'll tell you can attack with the sword.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you will then have the action roll. It will roll the dice, as it were, to see how you did. And let's say you get hurt really bad, well, then you might see something like critical. Your condition's critical. Your health is low. Now you want to get out of the room. Be it like, in half a second, he's going to attack you. So there's real-time aspects to it. You've got to, I think you need to stop overthinking every little element of, like, because we're not, if we want to create a first-person shooter or like a 3D hack and slash, that's a totally different game. What we're doing is we're trying to create building blocks for essentially an RPG.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
And it's an RPG stroke puzzle. It's a hybrid of a point and click game. Yeah, with an RPG aspect to it.
Right. Okay.
So that's why we've got a cutscene system and mechanisms for creating locations, exits, and objects. So now we can build this world. So we've created prefabs for building this world. And our interface at the moment is pish. It's just buttons and a screen. So we want to make this interface interesting.
Well, yeah, but we've already done that by making up. So, that's interacting with the 3D environment.
Yeah, totally. So we've just got to work out what level we decide to take this to.
Yeah.
So going back to this then, with our objects, worktops, cupboards, what sort of objects will we like? Do we still want to go to this level of detail?
Yeah, I mean, I think so.
How do we build these up then? So are you saying that Steph would then have to go and like take a table object and put it into the scene?
What's the easiest way to do it? I think like the most hands-on way is obviously, taking a table and putting it into the scene. But I don't know. Could it be stating that there are, 5 objects in a room, and then of those objects, they could possibly be a table with a lamp and a TV, or I don't know.
I mean, this is a living quarters at the end of the day, right? So there's going to be a load of stuff in this room.
I mean, like, if it was me, I would say, right, okay, this is a living quarters. I'm going to manually put a TV and a etc. in it, because I'd be wanting to build up the environment to suit the narrative. If I,
okay,
I don't just want it to be procedurally generated. I'm not like.
But that's the way we're going. We're creating an engine for procedural generation of not procedural, but for prefabrication of an environment, so that our designers can go off and do it without there needing to be loads of work involved. That is the big thing here, is trying to create something that's time efficient, cost effective.
And I don't know. You could say like, right, okay, pick your room prefab. Right, done. Here are, say, there's the L-shaped room has the possibility of placing 2 entrances. Here are the predetermined destinations or locations that you can put an entrance or exit in an L-shaped room. Right, done. Here are
the way that Sean's drawn this.
Yes.
Is there is no detail. It's super, super simple.
Yeah.
Based on objects that are available for that room. So it's like, here's 2 planes. Boom, boom. And here's a couple of objects. I'll let them locate those objects.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what you're getting at though.
But so what I'm getting at is, like, in terms of our prefab here, we've got an L-shaped room. That's it. It's two faces. Yeah. We've got a plant shape prefab and a TV shape prefab and an exit prefab.
Yeah.
It's super simple. Maybe if we scaled out a bit, we'd have like 4 doors next to each other here.
But this is too simple. Like, Sean's not drawn this to say this is how I think it should be. Sean's drawn it because he was trying to, make the concept that we're doing
I think
vectorized images on a.
No, I think Sean's
grid.
got a really good understanding of exactly what we've done here in terms of there being these prefabs for creating exits, objects, and locations.
I mean, possibly, but
he's pulled that together beautifully. This starting point, because these are objects: exit, object, location.
Yeah.
It's very basic, and it's based on elements that exist in here, right?
Yeah.
Where we're programmatically.
I don't see any difference. I honestly don't see any difference.
But so if you're saying like I have to have a table in the room, now you've got your essentially your game designers have to have some sort of level of expertise in 3D.
No, they don't.
No?
I mean, it entirely depends on how we do it. But how right? Okay, so describe how they would implement what Sean's done. Like, how would someone receives this this engine as a package. They want to make a room. How do they do it? Using Sean's example.
Well, so what I was getting from Sean's was that you would have objects essentially floated in this area here. You've got an area for your objects.
Right. But they've got a blank slate. Like, they've just opened it up and they just want to make a room. How do they do that?
They don't. You've got a prefab here. So this is a prefab L shape. Yeah. Let's say we've got a circle one as well. Yeah. Objects are put in this area. Exits appear on the right here. They're sort of floated, or wherever you want to float them. Maybe we've got one on the left here, one on the right here.
Right. Is that how it would look? Like, is that how the player would like actually perceive the room?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a user interface rather than an actual view of the room.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not what the player's seeing. It is a user interface.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're taking a step from this, where the user interface is the buttons, and you're moving these into, because remember these buttons don't exist. Like if you look at our user interface, there are no buttons. Yeah, they're created procedurally.
Yeah, I get that.
Based on the location you're in. They're not positioned by a designer to exist within a 3D realm. It's a tricky one to explain.
No, I get it. So, if you make a, like in as it is just now, if you make a room, then you have to outline what options need to be available. But you do that through scripting.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
So I don't see how that has to be different from what we're doing just now. You have a prefab, and then you have certain set locations for where.
Well, the only thing we're stuck on here is the table.
Right.
So the only reason we're stuck on the table is because perhaps we want the magazine to be on it. Now we're getting into a complex area here. So now you're defining the relationship between two 3D objects on the screen.
Okay.
Which we're not doing in our, now how complicated have we got to make our setup here? Do we really want we want them to just be able to go, you know what, I'm going to add an object here, right? Look at the way I do this. So I pull in an object into our scene, right? Now we've got a new object in this room. What is this object? Let's call this a tree. Okay, we now have a tree. in this scene.
Right.
How do we interact? How do we interact with this tree? Well, it's given a name of tree. Can we pick it up? No, it's not an item. Can we see it? Yes, we can. Now, what 3D entity does it have? So we will pick our 3D object for tree, whatever that's going to be.
Yeah.
Is it an exit? No. Does it take us to an exit? No. What verbs do we want? So how can we interact with it? So maybe we could climb the tree or kick the tree or whatever. I don't know what you're going to do with a tree, but this is how we interact with the tree, and then we create. We can create methods that work based on these. So we can have responses based on the actions that you pick, or we can have full, functional code for a particular action. And we can have pre-set ones like examine, which will then just do a lookup for that object.
Yeah.
So given that and the interface and the way they're using it, what we want is for them to be able to say, okay, where is this positioned in the game world? Maybe it's in the left quadrant. Maybe it's in the right quadrant. Maybe it's it's in an area somewhere. But to say it's positioned, opened up on the table, that's positioned somewhere in the middle of the room, we just can't go that far, because that is taking us way past the. It just becomes way too complicated at that point, and that is like at odds with our sort of design scope. We want to make this sort of some sort of prefabricated way of building it up. So whilst I like the idea of you drawing the room and making some sort of, it doesn't have to be too detailed, but something that represents an area, that's great. But when you start getting into the detail of how things are stacked, that could be pretty complicated. It could be really complicated. And now every location becomes a massive chore.
Okay.
So what we want is a system. We want a system that we can. So we've got to work out how can we make this. So we don't want to have like the objects lined up. Here's a magazine. Here's a plant. Here's a tree. That would just look bizarre. We want to have like predefined areas that we can put the objects in. Like if you've got a surface, every location has a surface in which a TV can go in or a terminal. Right?
Yeah.
Because you'd always want that to be positioned in a particular way, regardless of the scene that you're showing or the room you're showing. It's just a bit like, not Lego, but it's like, circular holes and square holes. And you've got particular objects that fit into different areas of your location, right?
I think
so a tree will only go in a tree location. And I don't know if a tree is a good example, because you probably wouldn't have trees in one of your scenes. That would just be a bit. Maybe you would. I don't know.
Maybe I just explained what I was talking about badly, because that's literally exactly what I meant.
Mm-hmm.
You have a room with I'll use your analogy: circle holes and square holes. Except I'll say you have a room with two door holes.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose to have a door in one of those holes or plug out the other one, so there's not a door there. You have like a like 3 TV holes or something on the wall. You can choose one place to put a TV. You have I don't know, like 6 floor holes. You can choose to put an object in one of these floor holes. A table has 2 object holes on it. You can choose to put an object in that hole on the TV, on the table, and put the table on whichever hole on the floor.
And so then your objects would need connecting faces. So a magazine would always connect to the face, the underside face, and always be. Is that what you're saying? So let's say when we procedurally instantiate our objects into the world, and we build our scene. We first of all we display the scene. There's the scene. Maybe it fades in or whatever, right? And then we list through our. Let's say we go through our living area here. So we got an exit study. So it goes, okay, it checks up and says, oh, that will slot into number 1. So it puts the door object into the scene. according to
Yeah.
the scene that you've got, according to the location you've got.
Yeah.
And then a balcony, and then the lift, and then it goes, it's a TV. Well, that's going to go in the TV slot. So that means each type of location then has to have the same set of potential connectors. So woods might have to have a TV slot, right?
Why would it need to have a?
Or we just
why would
say this doesn't. Yeah, we could just throw up an error and say woods doesn't have a TV slot. You'll have to talk to your 3D developer to add one. So
I was
wonder how
under
we do
the
that.
impression that, like, as a prefab, you make the room, and then like I don't know Godot, but if you make the room prefab an object, assuming I'm using that terminology right, you can set where those locations are, where you want an object, and what objects would be in those locations. So you can have literally anything on the floor, or you can have only doors or TVs on the wall, or art or whatever.
What I'm trying to, so when we talk about our circular holes and the square holes and so on, I'm trying to figure out, like, well, what are they? Well, they're going to be X, Y, and Z coordinates. Right, and they're going to have to
facing.
Well, they're going to have to be associated with a point on the 3D object.
Could they not just be floating in space?
Well, you don't want they could be, yeah, but you don't want your for example, your magazine to appear inside the table. You always want it to be perfectly on the table. So let's say, we could just use gravity.
Well,
right, I just pick a location and just let things just drop into place. Ding, ding, ding.
I was thinking, if you had, take worktops and tables, for example. Like a coffee table is not the same height as a worktop, but most coffee tables are exactly the same height, and most worktops are exactly the same height. So if you just had two set heights, two set elevations, or I suppose three set elevations if you had the floor counting as one elevation as well. So assuming it was.
Have you ever made a map for, like, Half-Life or any games?
No, never.
You know how long it takes to put all those prefabs in?
I've never made a map, but I have made multiple 3D environments.
I think I only use that as an example because it's a good. I suppose it's pretty much the same thing as a 3D environment, but you are connecting objects in a similar sort of way we're looking to do, except we're not prefab. There's no prefabs involved, not so much anyway.
I'm a little bit at a loss for what you mean for connecting objects, because I've never had to particularly connect an object.
So if we look at our spatial here, let's say that this mesh here will only ever connect to the right side of a capsule items.
Right.
So that's one of the positions it will appear in. Right. So what we need to do is then, for this given location, we need to store this translation.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but we need to do that programmatically. So we need to say that, okay, this will always be the position. So rather than us positioning it in 3D space like I am at the moment, this stuff is going to get stored, and I am going to create this sort of library in the same way we've done with exit. I'm going to create a library of objects, and each of those objects will have an X, Y, Z. So each location will have an X, Y, Z for each type of object. You're talking, like, potentially, depending on the number of objects you've got, it being this massive, massive dictionary. The more locations you've got, the more potential for different ways things can be connected.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, that's a huge. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And every time you want to add a new object, now you've got to redefine. You can't just go. You know what? I haven't got this object. I need to add it.
Yeah.
But
you're setting out to make a tool for people to use, which inherently means they're going to use it in so many different ways, which means you need to have all these options.
Yeah,
I mean,
so it's about keeping
it's
it
going to be a lot of
simple
work
and
no matter
flexible.
what you do. Right. Okay.
So it's how do we reduce that? So what we've actually got to say is, I think we've got to say like a location has a. See, this is why Sean's example is a prime example, because it's so simple.
Right.
So if you had like a face here with a pinpoint, this is the pinpoint that we put things on. So this could be a photo, it could be a TV, it could be anything.
Yeah.
So we call
that's
that
what I'm thinking.
Location
1, for example. Or
let's say we've got a square room, and this is location wall. So when you add an object to that room, you pick the location for that object, and it says wall.
Yeah.
And it knows exactly where those coordinates are. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what your mesh was, it's going to put it in the same place. But
well,
let's say
that entirely depends. I think it would depend on the room, because if you've got like,
yeah, this is based on square room.
Yeah. So
square room has a location called wall.
Okay. Right. Are you only going to have one possible wall location in square room?
Well, you might have 2 or 3. But all I'm saying is
cool.
this is an example of a square hole.
Yeah.
And so our square pegs are going to be TV and photo.
Yeah.
So now we're creating these connectors within a room, and we're creating items that can be connected to them.
Yeah.
So when you want to add a new object or mesh, we want to be able to define this has the square peg. And then the designer can just go, great, I've got this object. I'm going to add it to the room. It'll say, what sort of object is this? And it'll go, square peg. Okay, cool. So you can only put it here or here. You know what I mean? We're now making it really easy for them to build up that location. Well, have a go, man. Now you got to do is draw a location and see what happens.
I mean, honestly, I think I need to like sketch up a little diagram and then like just talk you through how I would envisage someone going through the options of choosing where to place a location, or place an object within a location and stuff like that.
Cool. Okay.
But I mean, it's pretty hand in hand with what you just said. So you've got.
I've started a new scene for this sort of stuff, by the way. Hold on, let me just. I haven't implemented it yet, but I started planning for it. Just basically inspired by you, by the way.
Inspired by my argumentative tone.
No, not at all. Right? No, it's all good, man. I love debating with you. Honestly, it's good. It gets me thinking, and also it's all about communication and how because we're on 2 different planets, right? I'm on programming planet, and you're on creative art planet.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, we've come closer and closer together the more we work on something like this together.
Absolutely.
I don't know if this is actually working. Hold on. Let's see. It's all gone black at the moment, right?
Yeah.
It's gone black.
I'm just seeing black in the stream.
So I just need to type in motion, activate the old webcam here, bring it in, second camera, and then there we go. Ta-da! So, I wanted to do bring a little RTC in here. So now, is that working? Yeah?
You are taking a leaf from my book.
Exactly. That's what I said. I wanted to put some fun technical items in camera to make it look more fun. I don't know what to do. Yeah, this will do. That's nice. Setting the scene with a bit of Monkey Island. But yeah, so then at least I can start going, it's like this, Callum, for God's sake, except the only trouble is I can't draw. That's not even a very good cube. Anyway. Oops, wrong one. There we go. So anyway, next time you need to get your little camera on so you can do some drawing and sketch on the show, man. That'd be awesome. So we've got to try and connect here and work out how we're going to do this.
Yeah.
What I think I'm going to do, I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to start redeveloping all this code. What I'll probably do is just take a complete copy of the project, and I'm going to build it up again from a 3D perspective, because now, using what 1-bit Godot's taught me, every item, every exit, they're all going to be able to sort of generate these sort of 3D instances in a 3D world, which I haven't done before. So I've got to have a rethink about how that goes. My brain has exploded ever so slightly, trying to consider how that'll work. But this is so cool. The fact that we can now on mouse area in 3D is absolutely awesome. So I suppose, I just keep it as simple as possible. Just remember that we're developing a UI and not we're not trying to recreate a full 3D environment here that the person's seeing. I think that's the trick. You've got to try and bridge a gap between, yes, he's seeing something in his mind, but it's not necessarily what is in the world. Tricky.
I think obviously there's a fine line, but you also want it to be appealing, and
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you try that? What do you call it? What's this?
Oh, the game that Sean brought up as an example.
Sorry,
what was it? Silver Case. That was it. Oh, it's the orange one, 2 above.
Oh, Silver Case, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the. Oh, what's this? What's this?
You're watching Experience 112, I think.
Yeah, I like this idea as well. I think it's quite fun.
The fixed camera perspective.
Yeah.
That's interesting. There's a lot of animation though.
John?
Yeah, oh, totally.
Is that you, John?
Oh, I thought you said Sean. Sean? Oh wow, he's got a few here. Let's have a look. It's cool. Pixel art. Gotta love the pixel art approach.
Which one's this? Is this Stay or is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard about this. It's just basically a puzzle game, is it?
It looks like it. I've never played it. Sean's the one to ask about these kinds of things.
Cool. That's fun. I'll try that one out. What else did you put up? Silver Case. And he said that there's a demo for this, right?
Apparently. Has a playable demo which shows off how they let you move between fixed points in a room rather than let you move about freely.
Yeah.
Which is more or less the type of thing that we were going for.
Yeah. Let's have a look. Right. It's 10:30. Calling it a night.
Oh, man.
I know.
How time flies.
So, why don't you have a bash then? Keep it simple. Remember prefab. And then we will implement it into the world. Definitely have a go on the Godot, learning Godot video I sent you. Yeah.
I'll need to take a look at that. I need to get my head wrapped around Godot again because it's been so long since I picked it up. So long. But what I want to do is I want to try and get some room prefabs, get some basic objects and stuff like that. Just make a few.
Mm-hmm.
Just make a small collection.
Okay.
And then see where we can go from that.
Okay. Let's try it out.
Cool.
Brilliant. All right. Well, it's been a nice little brainstorming session. Not much coding today, but we'll be back on it tomorrow. We're going to try and recreate. We're going to try and basically disconnect our 3D, our GUI object, which is our user interface control system, which looks like this. We're going to try and completely strip this out and bring it into a sort of dynamic 3D area. So I think for now, what I'll probably do is define like circles or dots, simple mesh instances into a location mesh instance, and create some system for transitioning between those locations. So we've basically got to give our objects and exits and locations 3D presence of some kind. So, and then we can throw in whatever you conjure up, Callum.
Cool.
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 All right, guys,
Don't expect much.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope you have a lovely evening. If you've just found us, please like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and we'll be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Night, night. Cheers. Take care.
Catch you later, everyone. Cheers.
Bye.